Hi everyone, welcome back or welcome to my channel. It is so great to have you here. Today we are doing a slightly embarrassing, slightly scary, slightly overwhelming video, for me at least, hopefully entertaining for you, and that is going through every single book on my physical TBR. Now, when I had this idea, because I've seen a few of my book friends do it here on YouTube, and I was like, I feel like I need to do this as well. I'll tag them below. When I had this idea, I was like, you know, I don't think I have that many. Then I started going through and remembering that I'm in the middle of like a million series, and I have a lot. I really do. I really have a lot. I don't know how many exactly, but we'll count them as we go. Very intimidated, but would love to hear your opinions, your thoughts on them. What ones I need to move up on like my priority TBR. I haven't stacked them all yet. I figure I'm just gonna go shelf by shelf so I don't miss anything. And I'm gonna do that with you. So without further ado, let's just get into it. I'm nervous. Starting with the top shelf. First of all, we have Emily Wilde's Encyclopedia of Fairies. I've had this on my TBR for a while and I really need to get to it. I feel like it's just gonna be super cute and I need to just do it. I believe this is a cozy fantasy book. There is another book out at the moment. I'm not sure how many more there are going to be. It does have a little line of romance as well, I believe, like a little rivals to lovers, scholar rivals to lovers. I like the idea that our main protagonist is just not good at socializing. I don't know, that really intrigues me, and just the whole like cozy vibe. I feel like I need to read it before winter's over in Australia because I just think it's the perfect vibe to like cuddle up with a cup of tea and a blanket and all that kind of stuff. So I do really want to get to this very soon. I was then just the other day sent this book and I am so excited to read this. I am going to be reading this very soon. It is called Immortal Dark and it is a new fantasy series set at an academy with vampires. May as well have written like Freya's dream book on the cover because I am so excited to read this. If there is anything about me, it is I am a sucker for a magic school or a magic academy, and I am going to read anything with vampires or mythical creatures, like anything. I was a Twilight girl when I was young. My two favorite book series when I was young was Twilight and Harry Potter. If that doesn't explain things, I don't know what will, because I am so excited to read this. So this is an ARC copy, which is why it looks a little bit different. I believe it comes out in September. And I think this is a new author as well, which is really exciting. Her name is Tigist Germa, I believe you pronounce it. I'm very excited to read this. I will be reading this very soon. This book, The Atlas 6 by Olivia Blake, has been on my TBR for about 2 years now. I only just got the physical copy like a few months ago, but the actual book has been on my TBR for a while. I just bought the physical copy to try and make me read it more. It's just kind of intimidated me because I didn't realize it was quite thick. I have just heard so many mixed reviews on this book that really makes me scared to go into it. Some people love it and they love the found family, they love the magic. Some people just find it really boring and find the writing style really hard to get through. The only thing I'll say to that is I have read one of Olivia Blake's books before and I loved her writing style. Like I was obsessed with it. So I feel like I am going to enjoy this when I get to it. I love the way she creates characters and stuff. So that's what makes me so excited for this. And I also am a sucker for a found family trope, one of my favorite tropes. So I do think I'm gonna like this when I get to it. Again, just intimidates me, which is why I haven't read it yet. Next, we have the 3 books in the June series. These are the original copies. My dad kindly hunted them down for me. I don't know where you can find these original copies anymore, but he found them for me and I would love to read these. I want to read these before I watch the movie of Dune, or Dune, I don't know how you pronounce it. I've had multiple different things. Anyway, I want to read these before I watch the movie just because that's a me thing. That's what I've always done. And I feel like these are classics. Like they need to be read first. And I've heard incredible things about both the movies and the books. But again, very intimidating. I'm thinking I might try the audiobook as well as physically reading them. Don't know if that'll help, but it might. The June series is a sci-fi classic cult series, if you know what I mean. I actually don't know too much about it, but I do want to go into it blind for that reason. All right, moving down to this shelf. I actually have read every single book on this shelf apart from Greyvale, I think you pronounce it. This is the 4th book in the Akane series, or Magdoran Chronicles rather. I've been working my way through this series in some vlogs recently. Absolutely obsessed. This is a YA series by Lynette Noni, and I'm going to be reading this one very soon. I only got it really recently. I just finished the 3rd book in this series. Insane. 5 stars. Like, loved it. So I'm really excited to go into this one. And the only thing that annoys me is it's not floppy at all. The other ones were, but this one isn't. Basically, the Magdoran Chronicles is set at a magic school. We have found family trope. We have a little trickle of romance. Very YA, but just the magic system and the world I'm obsessed with. We also have mythical creatures. It has like everything I could ask for in a fantasy book. Moving down to this shelf, we have a few books on this shelf, sadly. This is my high fantasy shelf, or just my another fantasy shelf. So I have quite a lot of books on here that I haven't read. This is mainly where my fantasy TBR lies. I just need to get a TBR card, honestly. That would make this a lot easier. First of all, we have Daughter of No Worlds by Carissa Broadbent. I read The Serpent and the Wings of Night, absolutely obsessed with it, absolutely loved it. I really, really want to get to this series. I've heard mixed things about it, but I do think I'm going to like it. I think it's a little bit slower paced and then really picks up at the end. I know we have a really great female main protagonist and I love that. But other than that, I don't know too much about it. And I kind of want to go into it blind like that. We then have One for My Enemy by Olivia Blake, another Olivia Blake book on this TBR. I'm going to read this very soon because it is my book club pick for the month and I want to read it. The price tag is still on. But I am so excited to read this book. I have heard incredible things. As I said, really enjoy Olivia Blake's writing and the way she creates characters. And I believe this is a Romeo and Juliet retelling, but with witches. I'm just getting the sticker off as I talk to you, by the way. But with witches. So that sounds very cool, very up my alley. I do think I'll be annotating this one. And something I love about Olivia Blake's books is the fact that she has like pictures all throughout her books. I think that is so cool. Honestly, feel like I should leave this one out so that I actually read it. I'm just taking them off the shelves as I go, by the way, and then I can like count them all at the end. Talking about series I am in the middle of, we have Conjuring of Light by V. Schwab. This is the third and final book in the Dark Shade Magic trilogy. Obsessed with the first two. The only reason I haven't read this is because I don't want to finish this series. I don't want to leave the world. I'm too scared to. I really need to though. I'm very excited to read this. I just am slightly intimidated as well because of the size. Like it's very big and so much could go down that I am very scared of. But I love this series. If you're unsure, we are following Kel, who is a traveler and he can travel between different realities of London. So in this world, we have different realities of London. We have the White London, the Black London, the Grey London, and the Red London. And he travels between them to kind of keep peace between the monarchs. We are also following Delilah, and she is a thief, a renowned thief. Their paths intertwine, amazing, obsessed, incredible. Moving on to my Brandon Sanderson books, I have The Well of Ascension. This is the second book to the Mistborn series. I was meant to read it this month. Honestly, just been scared to read it this month. I think I'm going to start it as an audiobook to kind of help me get into it because I believe it is like almost 800 pages of high fantasy. Like you can see why I was intimidated. I love Brandon Sanderson's books. I think he is such an incredible writer, but he sometimes intimidates me with the complexity and the intricacy and detail in his books. I loved Mistborn though. I thought it was absolutely amazing. I reread it recently and I really want to get to this one so bad. I just wish I wasn't so intimidated so easily. Speaking of Brandon Sanderson, we then have The Way of Kings. I'm going to go onto this after finishing the Mistborn series. Yes, I haven't gotten all the books in the Mistborn series, I know. I've heard this is like one of his best works in the Cosmere, so of course I am very intrigued to read it. I know that this is quite high fantasy, but I think it's totally worth it. Like it's worth the complicated plotline for this book because apparently it's amazing. And also Patrick Rothfuss and Robin Hobb have also reviewed this, so I trust their opinions. Speaking of scary, intimidating reads, do not know when I'm going to get to this one. This is Priory of the Orange Tree. Has been on my TBR for a long time now, and I actually don't know when I'm going to get to this one because this one is over 800 pages long. Scarily big. I know some people like absolutely love it and some people really struggle to get through it. I think I'm going to love it. Very much thinking I'm going to love it. I actually don't know really what it's about. I know that we have mythical creatures and I believe it is based off Asian mythology, which I find really interesting. I love when books are based off any type of mythology. So I do think I'm going to find it interesting. It is just when will I feel brave enough to read it? I don't know. Of Jade and Dragons by Amber Chen. This is her newest release. This is a young adult fantasy book and this is the art copy, which is why it looks a little bit different. Penguin sent this to me quite recently and I just haven't gotten to it yet, although I wish I had. I believe, again, this is an Asian mythology inspired YA fantasy series. I believe it is the start to a series. So I do think I'm going to like this book. I just need to get to it. Story of my life. Okay, that is that shelf done. Now down to here. More fantasy books. We have Heir of Broken Fate 2, Heir of Broken Kingdom by Mads Rafferty. I read the first book in this last year, which is just here, Heir of Broken Fate. Loved it. It's a great fun romantasy with like enemies to lovers, mythical creatures, all that kind of stuff. It's super fun. And this book came out only a few months ago, a month or two ago. And I really need to get to this one. Again, very scared to see what's going to happen in this book, but I am like really anticipating it. Although I do kind of want to reread Heir of Broken Fate because I read that like over a year ago and I kind of want to reread it before I go into this one so I can get the best reading experience possible. I know I'm just making it harder for myself. I know, I'm aware. More Brandon Sanderson. We have Yumi and the Nightmare Painter. This one though is like a standalone cozy Brandon Sanderson. So it's nothing intense, it's nothing crazy, and I would like to get to this one quite soon. Again, not entirely sure what it's about. I was really intrigued with the cover though, and I do love a good like cozy fantasy in winter. I gravitate towards them, especially on days that I'm not feeling incredible. You can kind of just breeze through these. And Brandon Sanderson writes like incredible worlds. He's amazing at that. A River Enchanted by Rebecca Ross. Rebecca Ross, one of my favorite authors. Well, I'm going to rephrase that. I read The Divine Rivals Duology by Rebecca Ross and absolutely loved it and loved her writing. So I feel like I'm going to love A River Enchanted. I've seen very, very mixed reviews on this book, which is why I haven't picked it up immediately. And I do think it is more of a slow moving, cozy fantasy. So again, have to be in that mood. And I do want to annotate it. Those are the reasons I haven't picked it up. I'm making excuses for myself, I know. I also have no idea what this is about, but I'm doing that on purpose. I don't want to know what this is about. I want to go in completely blind and be taken into her world that she creates because I love how she writes. We then have Crescent City 3, House of Flame and Shadow. Obviously the third book in the Crescent City series by Sarah J Maas. Very scared to go into this one and have been putting it off because I feel like I'm gonna either love it or like really hate it. I loved the first book in the Crescent City series and hated the second one, but the ending left so much potential for the third one, which is intriguing. And I do think I want to read it because I do love Sarah J Maas's writing. Like she's so digestible and easy to read. And I do want to read it for that. But again, why is it so big? Next we have House of Beating Wings. This is a fantasy romance book, I believe, by Olivia Wildstein. This has been on my TBR for a while. I kind of just saw this on Amazon and bought it on a whim. I'm not entirely sure what it's about, but I believe it is enemies to lovers type situation. It got a bit of a kingdom going on, obviously lots of magic. It says fans of Sarah J Maas and Mary Pearson will devour this epic fantasy romance full of deceit, betrayal, false love that could swallow a person whole. I mean, I love both Sarah J Maas and Mary Pearson, so I feel like I'm gonna love it. Feybound. I technically started this book and I got like 3 chapters in and was just like, I'm not really in the mood for this kind of book, and put it down as a soft DNF, and I am gonna come back to it because I do want to read it. I don't know how to say it. It was set in the desert and it was giving me a weird vibe, and I just wasn't in the mood for something like that. I wasn't in the mood for an intense fantasy when I picked this up, if I'm honest. I went on to read like romance after I read this. So I do think I need to be in the right mood for this, but I have seen incredible reviews about this, like insane reviews. So it's got to be pretty good if I've seen that many amazing reviews. The Warm Hands of Ghosts by Catherine Arden. This is like a historical fantasy. I just thought it was really, really interesting. We're set in 1917 and I believe there is kind of a murder mystery going on as well as some magic and all that kind of stuff, which I just think would be really interesting. That's pretty much the reason I picked it up. Okay, moving on to our next shelves. Okay, these are from 2 shelves, don't worry. So the book I haven't read on the top shelf is Just for the Summer by Abby Jimenez. I am working my way through her backlog and just haven't gotten up to this one yet, but I am so excited to read this because the amount of reviews I have heard on this, like positive reviews, is insane, and people like already rereading it when it came out in like April or something. We then have a lot of romance books. So we have Fangirl Down by Tessa Bailey. This is a golf romance, which is just bizarre to me because I have never read a golf sports romance. I love a good sports romance, but never read anything like this. I do like Tessa Bailey's writing though. I think she's really easy to binge read. We have The Partner Plot. This is like What Happens in Vegas vibes, if you know what I mean. Violet goes to Vegas and runs into Xavier, who is his high school girlfriend, I believe, and then they end up getting married in Vegas. It just sounds fun. It sounds like a cute little like forced proximity kind of romance. If you can't tell, I'm just going to speed through a lot of these because I feel like romances, you don't have too much to say on a lot of them. Lucky Hit by Hannah Cohen. This is a sports hockey romance. It is an enemies to lovers kind of you can't have her situation. It is very short and sweet and cute, and well, I don't know if it's sweet and cute, but it seems sweet and cute. Literally under 300 pages. I should really just get to this to knock it off my TBR. The Brutal Prince. Now I have technically started this book. I don't know if I'm gonna like this one at all. I am not a dark romance girl or a mafia romance girl or anything like that. Like, I like cute little fluffy romances, or I like fantasy romances. I don't like dark romances. I figured that when I read Haunting Adeline. This is a mafia romance series. I believe it is on like the lighter side. Like, it's not too dark and too heavy. But I don't know if I'm gonna like this. I believe it is also age gap. So we'll see, but it was really popular, so bought it because I wanted to see. He's a 10. This is a sports romance again, but I believe both of them are like kind of in the sports scene, which is fun. This is a soccer romance. Again, a nice little brain break, I think. I think it is kind of rivals to lovers, and it's like Grumpy Sunshine, I'm pretty sure as well, which we always love. And then finally, Wildfire by Hannah Grace. I actually really enjoyed Icebreaker. I know that's an unpopular opinion, but I actually found it really great. Like a fun romance read. I really liked Anastasia as a character, and I really liked how her kind of insecurities and stuff were talked about, because I think that kind of stuff needs to be talked about a lot more in romance books. Like, don't even get me started on that. Moving on this shelf, I have read everything. Oh wait, apart from this one. Good Material by Dolly Alderton. I was sent this by Penguin, and I have never actually read a Dolly Alderton book before. And I believe this is one of her first like fiction books. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I know Dolly Alderton writes a lot of non-fiction, which I also have on my shelf. And this is like a kind of chick flick book, which I feel like would be really fun. Okay, now moving on to this shelf. I've read everything else on that one. We have a lot of thrillers that I'll just go through pretty quickly. This is The Spy Coast. This is a cozy thriller. We are set on a remote island, and a kind of retired FBI agent, I think, finds a body and kind of has to bring up her past skills that she tried to keep hidden. I have Everything We Never Said by Sloane Harlow. I actually don't know what this is about. It's a quick, fast-paced thriller, which I always need. Whenever I'm like going into a book slump, I always just need something quick that's gonna help me get out of that. I think Ella's best friend Haley went missing and never knew why, all that kind of stuff. It just, you know, I just feel like you can never have too many fast-paced thrillers. And also, like, look at this cover, like the shininess is so cool on the like shattered glass. Penguin actually kindly sent me this because it is like the new edition, the smaller print of it. I actually didn't love the first 3 books, or you know, the Inheritance games. I thought I was going to, but it just didn't quite live up to my expectations. So it's kind of just like a 3-star series for me. I do want to read this because I feel like it's fun, and I really liked the character. It was just the storyline that didn't live up to expectations. But I feel like I really enjoyed the characters in the series. The Paris Apartment by Lucy Foley. I love Lucy Foley. I really like her writing. The Guest List is one of my like favorite recommendations for thrillers. I loved it. I love like whodunit kind of mysteries, and I feel like she writes that like kind of forced proximity. There's like nowhere to go. Who is it out of these characters? I love that kind of thing. And this is similar. I've heard incredible things about this, and I really need to read it. I just haven't been in the mood for like a good, like kind of thicker thriller recently. Two Sides to Every Murder is another quick, fast-paced thriller. This one's really interesting though, because it is set at like a summer camp, which I feel like is interesting. And it just has a really interesting premise, so that's why I have this one. It says, most people's births aren't immortalized in a police report. Olivia was born during the infamous Camp Lost Lake murders, but when she starts digging into the events of that night, the official story starts to fall apart. It sounds interesting. I need to get to that one, especially when I'm in a book slump. A Place of Darkness, which again was sent to me by Penguin. This was in like their kind of detective thriller pack that they sent me, so this is like a detective kind of crime where the reader like puts it together as they're going, which is like one of my favorite types of thrillers. I love that kind of things. It's like Criminal Minds vibes. I believe this is kind of like the Zodiac Killer, but like with criminal minds as well. And I am really intrigued by this one. It's just very long. The last thriller on my TBR, I think, is The Creeper. This is actually set in Victorian high country, which is where I grew up, and I think that's really interesting. I do think it is fiction, but still, it's set in the place where I used to live, so I feel like that's something that intrigues me. And there was also so many like mystery murder kind of stories that would go around those mountains, so I don't know. It always kind of scared me, and sometimes I feel like scaring myself, so that's good. The next 2 books are in the Stalking Jack the Ripper series. I read the first 2 and have been absolutely obsessed with them. And then I need to read Escaping from Houdini and Capturing the Devil. I love this series so much. It is like a historical YA series. We are based on true historical crimes, but the characters and like events surrounding them are fictional. And it's just really fun. Like, it's so fast paced and easy to get through, and there's a line of romance. It's very fun. We then have Dragon Rider. This is the art copy, which is why it looks a little bit different. I initially picked this up, and I am terrible with gore. And it was quite gory from the start. So I put it down for a bit, and I still haven't picked it up again. I do think this is more of a high fantasy. I originally thought there was a line of romance, but I'm not entirely sure if there is. And I do want to pick this up again. The cover is absolutely amazing. Like, it's stunning. And the real cover, like not just the art cover, looks like this as well. And I do want to read this. I feel like it's giving Game of Thrones vibes, and that also is very gruesome. Keeping the fantasy theme on, The Jazzed Air. This is an Egyptian inspired fantasy romance book. This has been on my TBR for the longest time, and I will be reading it very soon in a planned vlog that is upcoming. I just love mythology inspired fantasy books. Like, I just think they are absolutely amazing. So I really need to get to this one. Well, I am getting to it. Sanctuary of the Shadow. This really intrigued me because it is like a circus-based fantasy, and it's kind of like Caraval. Like, I love Caraval. So that is pretty much the reason that I picked this up. I love a good like mystery circus fantasy book. But I've had very, very mixed reviews on this. So I'm quite like intimidated to pick it up. Assistant to the Villain. I am so confused as to what this book is. I don't know whether it's a fantasy, whether it's a romance, whether it's a fantasy rom-com kind of situation. Again, seeing some people love it, seeing some people hate it. So I'm really not sure what to expect from this one. And I think the sequel's coming out soon. So I don't know. I don't know whether this is worth the read or not. I then have The Lies of Locke Lamora. Now, this one isn't actually my book. This is my friend's book, and I've just borrowed it and still haven't read it because I'm a terrible friend. Apparently, this is like a kind of heist vibe. It is amazing. I don't really know. I don't know anything about it, if I'm going to be completely honest, but the cover looks amazing, and it's one of my friend's like absolute favorite series of all time. So I clearly need to read it for her. We then have a romance, All Roads Lead Here. I loved Mariana Zapata's writing when I've read a few of her past books. I think she is amazing. And apparently this one is like an amazing slow burn, enemies to lovers, small town kind of romance. It's just bizarrely thick for a romance. So sometimes that intimidates me. And I often forget that this is on my shelf because it's so far down. So I think I need to move it so I can actually read it sometime soon. Lastly, we have 2 nonfiction books. As I said before, the Dolly Alderton, Everything I Know About Love. I believe this has just been turned into a Stan series as well, or a movie series. I've just heard that this is a book that like everyone needs to read in their 20s. And I feel like I need to try and read more nonfiction. So I really need to pick this up soon. I just feel like I need to be very present when I'm going to be reading this because I think it talks about a lot of touchy topics. And I don't want to just be skimming through it. I want to be present while I'm reading it. And same with Notes to Self. Again, one of my best friends gave this to me and said that it's like absolutely changed their life. It was amazing. They were bawling their eyes out. This is under 200 pages. It is very, very little, but it deals with a lot of like sensitive topics. So again, I feel like you have to be in the right mindset to read this, but I've heard incredible things. And that is everything on my physical TBR. Do I need to go on a book buying van? Yes, probably. And I probably will. I need to get through some of these, and I'm honestly excited to get through a lot of these. So it doesn't really bother me too much to not buy some more books. I've also been using Kindle Unlimited a lot recently, which thank God. But thank you so, so much for watching today's video. I believe we have 50 plus books on this kind of count. I kind of lost count, but I think that's around about what we have. Thank you so much for watching this video and for being here and supporting my channel. And I will see you in my next video.